Hey everyone, Jordan here, welcome to a new video. Today we're looking at something new from NZXT. This is the H3 Flow, an M-ATX case. I've been looking forward to something on the smaller side from them. I think the last one we had was the Manta, which was about 10 plus years ago, so it's been a long time since we've seen anything of this form factor. So I'm really looking forward to this. Let's get in the box and take a closer look. Here we have the H3 Flow from NZXT. It's really nice to have a smaller form factor case from them. Now this one's going to come in at $69.99. Nice, and it's going to be available in black and white. I'll put the two colours on the screen so you can see those. So let's have a look around the case. On the front we've got a little panel you can just easily pull off just on push pins, if I can find the part to grip. There we go. On the back of that we've got that fine mesh that's a mix of the airflow and also does catch some dust that NZXT have used this for the last couple of years now. I actually run a case daily that uses this mesh and it does a surprisingly good job. A lot of people did say on the previous videos they'd like to see a dust filter. You could add one on, it's just obviously a metal panel, so you could just magnet one if you're in a heavy dust area, but it does keep your temperatures a little bit lower with this material and just clean your PC regularly. You shouldn't have any problems anyway. So on the front of the case, let's just bring this to the top camera so you can see it a little bit better. We have got support for up to a 280mm AIO. You can obviously do two 140s or two 120s there if you'd rather, or 240 AIO. The choice is yours. We've also got a little bit of depth there, up to 65mm to play with for a bit of a thicker rad. So maybe like the Arctic Freezer ones, for example, you could fit those inside. On the top of the case here, we've got a dust filter. This is just a magnetic one, just slides off, and then you're straight into your support for your top fan. So you can do two 120 or two 140mm fans. Unfortunately, there's no 280mm AO support that's official because of the RAM clearance with a motherboard and stuff, and I'll show you that when we get inside. But you can do 240mm fans if you'd like to at the top there. I just had a thought about this additional dust filter on the top. Obviously you've got an open panel. If you're going to use a 240mm AO, your rad will be straight there. If you want to kind of minimise the air resistance, then you could just leave this off. And if you really wanted a filtered front panel, just put that on the front there, and then pop your front panel back on. There you go, you've now got a filtered front panel. No extra charge either, there you go. Just a little idea for you. Now also on the top we have got a power button that's illuminated. We've also got a Type A port that's USB 3.2, and then Type C which is USB 3.2 2x2. On the back of the case we've got where the rear I/O from the motherboard will come out. We've also got a pre-installed 120mm fan, that's an F120 non-RGB. We've got 4 expansion slots for our graphics card. And at the bottom we've got where our power supply will mount. This is full-size ATX. One limiting factor though, on the bottom you'll see there's no perforation, so you will need to go fan side up with the power supply, much like we saw with the H5. There's also very shallow depth there as well, so even if you were to drill a hole, there's not that much space for any air to be brought in, even with the pads on both sides. So unfortunately you are going to be limited to a fan side up power supply in this case. I would really like the option though, maybe add some additional feet and then have the option to put it in there. Just saying, would be quite nice, as not everyone wants to be forced to use it one side. Also on the bottom of the case we've got space to mount a hard drive or an SSD. You'll have to screw it in from the other side. There's also support for another 2.5 inch inside that I'll show you in a minute. So getting inside the case, we've got our glass panel. This is just on push pins, around 3mm tempered glass. No tint on there though. You may find a bit of tint with the black version though, just something to bear in mind. Then inside we have got our M-ATX or ITX motherboard support. This also supports BTF boards. A lot of people said they missed the BTF support from the H5 and the H7 refreshes, so they have added it in this one. We've also got cutouts at the top for standard motherboards for cables to come through, and also the 24 pins on the right hand side. Tilting it up, we've also got some cutouts at the bottom for any graphics card cables to come up through. Also a perforated area for some air to be brought in for your power supply, and you can also mount 220mm fans there if you'd like to. Now just going back to the front of the case, we have got 65mm to use if you're going to install an AO in the front of the case. If you do that, you will have a maximum limitation for your graphics card of 317mm. If you're going to use just normal case fans 25mm, then you will have a maximum of 352 to play with. Maybe you might use 30mm, so that would obviously take you down to 347. But then your other limitation is going to be your CPU tower, where you can do a maximum of 170mm. So I've just installed a motherboard with some Kingston Fury Beast just to see how it will fit. It's literally flush to where you would install a 280, so it's going to be a case of, depending on what memory you use, it might fit. If you use low profile, you'll probably be more likely to be able to fit one in there. but it's going to be a results may vary, try it at your own risk kind of thing. And I see why they've not put it in the documentation, because it's very tight. But you can, of course, put the two 140s in, like I mentioned at the start. So going on to the back of the case, we've got a couple of thumb screws to remove this panel. Again, some mesh there for any air being brought in by the power supply. Not too much going on the back of this case. We've got all the cutouts for the back to front motherboards, of course. Zip tie points for cables to go up, especially if you've got EPS cables. There's one on the side there. It'd be quite nice to tuck the cables into there. We've got our front panel connections and things here as well. We've got the USB Type-C, a USB Type-A, and also the front panel all in one block, which is what we love to see. Also nicely colour matched to the case as well. There's also an accessory box that comes included in the case as well. Here we've got some screws if you're going to add any additional ones down by the power supply. Obviously you're going to need longer ones. There's also an additional standoff. We've got about 10 zip ties in there as well. And then we've got the usual assortment of screws. Here's the additional space for the SSD on the back of the case. I'm not sure if you're supposed to screw that in before the motherboard, a little bit strange. There also may be some studs that are included, but this is an early sample, so that may be why I don't have them yet. We'll obviously have to verify that. I'll put a pinned comment when I can find out. Then at the bottom we have got our power supply area. Like I mentioned, up to 400mm of the length there to use. Obviously you may have a hard drive that might give you a little bit less depth, but you've got masses of space there for all of your cables. That was a look at the new H3 Flow from NZXT. Unfortunately, I don't have a test system for this size case, so this is going to be just an unboxing and overview. Then we can use this in a build, so let me know what kind of specs you'd like to see. I'm certainly going to try and fit a 280 in the roof. We'll have to obviously find some lower profile memory to do that, but it certainly can be done. It'll also be helpful for people that are looking to do that as well. Give you an idea of what memory you can use. So I think we'll go for that idea. Or we can try and put a 280 in the front and then see what limitations we get for graphics cards. That's obviously another option. We could also try and get a BTF board and go down that route. Lots of different paths we can go, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. £69 I think it's fairly reasonable though. Would like to see some front fans. We'll probably see an RGB version of this though. That's generally how these launches go with NZXT. So I will put links for this in the description box if you want to pick one up. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Get subscribed and ding the bell so you don't miss the build when that goes live. Thank you to NZXT for sending this out for me to look at, and I'll see you all in the next one.